Hey, it's Erik with New Hope Counseling and Simple Recovery. We're talking about taming the terrible twos. And so this video is going to be really about how do I tame myself? Like, how do I help myself get through this? I used to focus so much on helping the 2-year-old, but soon I learned that from a systemic point of view, if the family is calm, this isn't about blame. If the family is calm, it just goes much better. And I noticed that families that had like 4 or 5 children or 6 children, what happens is there's a lot of love there at times. And the terrible twos are there, but it's kind of like you have it in a crowd and there's a different dynamic versus one on one. Okay. So, encouragements. One is this will pass, it's not going to last forever. And as human beings, we tend to think what we're experiencing now will be forever, and that would freak us out. But if we know that this is only temporary, and if we keep in mind this is necessary, you have to go through this. Really, really important to go through this grieving process of not getting what you want, learning how to manage your mood. This fancy word is mood regulation. 2-year-olds don't have the best mood regulation. If they did, it would be creepy. It would be the Stepford children. It would just be freaky. So this is normal. We somehow know this. We need to know that at 3 or 4-year-old, they can be a delightful person, in which case you just feel great. You just go, wow, I like you. You're so likable. The joy of parenting there. It's so much fun. But as a 2-year-old doing their song and dance, we could start to freak out and go, oh my gosh, I failed. And that's where I boldly say, no, this is not the time to think in terms of failure. This is a time to think in terms of this is normal. My very first speech ever in a psychological manner, I think, was 1980. Let's just say 1988. I spoke on the peninsula to a group of people, and I had just gotten out of bachelor's of arts, actually graduated at the top of the class there. I guess I should throw that in. It's kind of funny. What does that mean? It means I really like psychology. My dear wife was there to help me with that. She put me through school. But I didn't think I was really going to just go and get a master's that quickly, but this therapist said, we need help over on the peninsula, and can you come over? So the way she taught me to connect with clients is to do public speaking. So what did I teach on? I talked about developmental psychology, which was so fascinating to me. I used the metaphor of a river raft trip, or like a river, that you start off, things are pretty calm. Terrible twos, turbulence, lots of turbulence, lots of rocks, lots of white water. Okay, maybe a 3 or 4 or 5. It can be, and if you don't know what you're doing, you can freak out and want to jump over the raft. And if you're too controlling, you take that stick and start using it in a bad way. Like, no, use the stick if you're going to get down the river, just to avoid the big rocks. But guess what? After you get through that, it's going to be calm. 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds are pretty calm. They just are if they go through that. Can you speed it up any? I don't think you can. Some people, the process is longer. Some, it's shorter. But if you take care of yourself as a parent, it works much better. So you might laugh at this, but what are the basics? I would start with sleep. Sleep is like the number one thing we need. It fills our gut with serotonin. Our biome works so much better, and we manufacture the serotonin we need. Who is thinking clearly on little sleep? If we have lots of sleep, we're just going to be calmer. We're going to be working with that prefrontal cortex ourselves, which is thoughtful, thinking ahead, executive functioning. And that's kind of fancy psychobabble. let's put it in more simple terms, because I think simplicity is key. To be able to think through things and predict the future, the ability to stand outside the situation and go, how do I want to respond? That's the prefrontal cortex, thinking of what a good gift would be for someone. The limbic system, on the other hand, is fight or flight. That's what's happening with the 2-year-old. And when they get into that fight or flight mode, very binary, black and white, you either give me the cookie or I'll hurt you. It triggers the nuts. So I want to say, well, I'll hurt you too. No, sometimes it does. If we came from a rough background and we take it personally, or we just feel really bad because we have these feelings. Prefrontal cortex helps us step outside and go, aha, this is going to be a terrible 2-day. Now, in the terrible 2s, in that river raft trip, there are faster and slower. So one day we could be really good. The next day is not so good. You can't really predict it. It's just going to be what it's going to be. And that's why if you get a good sleep, you can wake up with the idea, okay, I'm ready to face the day. Good nutrition. Think of ways to nourish your body nutritionally. I think, and then this I would say is really key, is if you understand what's going on. If you understand, it'll be easy not to get embedded into it and to be frightened. So, read books on developmental psychology, not necessarily what's on the internet. And I'll say this, so many people think in terms of diagnoses. When the first diagnosis manual came out, it had about 30. Then as time went, it went to 100. Now there's over 600 diagnoses. Now, here's the thing. Can we have grown that many disorders? Or are people just making this up? And do you think people are making this up so they can actually prescribe more medication? That's another story. But one has to ask, why are all the contributors on these committees making disorders actually own 100% of the stock in drug companies? So I'm not anti-drugs, but I'm just saying that could be a conflict of interest. So now everybody wants to diagnose, my baby has ADD, my baby has bipolar. Yeah, if you have a 2-year-old, you just look at their life, you go, oh my gosh, do they have this sense of grandiosity? They do. Do they have hard time sleeping? They do. Are they free-floating anger at times? They do. But you can't diagnose something which is a natural occurring experience. And so I tend to think in terms of what are natural occurring experiences. Your 2-year-old will tap inside what was going on for you when you were 2. This is another thing we'll address in another video, that when you parent someone, whatever was going on in your childhood at 6 years old or 10 years old, say like your dad left to 10, then you have a 10-year-old yourself, and all of a sudden you start having this grief, and it's like, what happened? That's called an anniversary reaction. And I think we all have anniversary reactions unconsciously. When it comes to 2-year-olds, we might have had parents that were very lenient and just gave us whatever we wanted, or parents that were really strict and overly said no. Then sometimes we compensate by going the other direction. Prefrontal cortex teaches us how to step outside that so that we can parent the way we want to parent. So you take care and have a great day.